Namaste, good evening, everyone. Well, I'm going to attempt to continue forward with the Vijana Bhairav Tantra text. From this point, it's a little bit difficult to read. Their typing was not so good. So let me see if I can try to figure out what they're wanting to say here. Number 46. O gazelle-eyed one, having freed the mind of all supports, one should refrain from all the vikalpas, the thoughts and counter-thoughts. Then the self becomes one with the Supreme Self in the state of Bhairav. The Supreme Lord, who is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent, verily, I am and I have the same Shiva nature. Contemplating thus with firm conviction, one becomes Shiva. Now, I don't recommend this. Again, this is under that imagination. I can convince myself that I am Shiva. Okay, and that might work for a while. You can puff up your ego and but it's not going to break through the thoughts and the counter thoughts. What one needs to come to is to that stillness, to see beyond those, to see where they come from, where they go to, okay? To break that hold that they have on one in creating that story that one adopts as ego, okay? So again, I don't recommend that one try to convince themselves that they're Shiva, that they continue to imagine that, because even it says in this text, that's not going to remain. Okay, you might have it for a time, but again, if it's not that eternal unchanging is, it's going to move. It's going to move. Okay. Number 47, just as waves arise from water, flames from fire, and light rays from the sun, similarly, the waves of Bhairav, which produce the different emanations of the universe, are verily my source. Well, everything, again, you can't exist without this, what they call Bhairav or Parabrahman. Without that essence, there is no life. Okay, one has to have that essence to have that life. So again, like I said, you can never be separate from it. One can feel as if they're separate, but one never is truly separate. Okay, let's continue forward. Whirling the body round and round until it falls on the ground and makes the energy causing commotion at once become static. By the cessation, the supreme slate appears. Okay, I don't care for this one. I think this is one of the practices that I believe it was Muktananda did. Have the people spin around and then stop all of a sudden. You get dizzy and then that motion of stopping. But again, I think that's a false, making a false feeling of something that arises for a moment, but it's not going to stay. It's not going to move one forward. Okay, so again, this is one practice that I wouldn't recommend here. Continue forward. Being powerless to perceive objects due to ignorance or wrong perception, if one is able to dissolve the mind by absorbing it on the erroneous perception of objects, then at the end of commotion brought about by that absorption, there the form of Bhairav appears. Again, on this path, it's again, coming to the point, doing practices until one enters witness state, and then watches where emotions and thoughts come from and where they go to. What gives them life? What gives them energy? Okay, what makes them appear to be valid? And how much validity do they really have? Okay. So these are the things that one encounters along the way, but one has to be in enough of a witness state or a state of Turiya, a witness state, to be able to see these. And again, on this path, we say neti neti. Whatever is moving and changing cannot be the eternal is. Okay. Whatever is moving and changing, we say is that Maya, that obstruction, that occlusion. Now in the Kashmiri Shaivism, they would say it's real, but it's that expansion of Shakti. It's the face of Shiva. So it's two very dichotomies as to the way that it is perceived. Okay. Let's continue to go forward. Hopefully I didn't confuse you even more, because this path is a Vajra Nirvana mark. We are in the path of negation, negating all of that which is in motion until one enters into that stillness that's unchanging. And then from that point, it becomes the play of God. Okay? So let's continue forward. Listen, O Devi, as I'm telling you about this mystic tradition in its entirety. If the eyes are fixed in a steady gaze without blinking, Kaivalya will arise immediately. Again, seeing without seeing. This is that practice I was telling you about in the other video, seeing without seeing. Your gaze is focused somewhere, but really you're internalized. So while the eyes may register this, really the attention is in the heart center, and one has submerged within that, and seeing without seeing happens. This helps to pull one into that witness state, to expand the heart center into God realization, and also to pull one into witness state. Okay. Let's continue forward. Contracting or closing the openings of the ears, the lower opening of reproductive excretory organs in the same way, and then meditating on the palace of the Anand, the unstruck sound within, one enters the eternal Brahman. Okay, that unstruck sound is in the heart center. Okay, one continues to go back to the heart center. When you have Kundalini awakening, it goes all the way through the consciousness and then comes back to reside and rest in the heart center. Okay, so again, that unstruck sound. This is why we don't do third eye meditations here, because you can go into astral realms and continue to create and create realm after realm after realm. And if one is wanting to get to self-realization, the mind has to still not continue to create more and more. Now, I guess in Kashmiri Shaivism, that would be very valid. You're creating more and more, exploring more and more realms, more and more faces of Shiva as Shakti, through Shakti. Okay. But doing that, it's very difficult to get to Turiyatita, that still mind, that still unchanging is. Okay, so this is something that, again, is not recommended on this path. Okay, let's continue forward. Standing above a deep hole or well and looking steadily downward into the abyss, the mind becomes entirely free of vikalpas, and dissolution immediately manifests. Okay, so again, if you're looking down and you're not seeing an end to it, you can reach a point where all of a sudden the mind stills and you will have this glimpse. Okay, let's continue forward. Wherever the mind moves, whether outwards or inwards, there the all-pervasive state of Shiva will go. Again, this is the Kashmiri Shaivite type tradition. Okay, but in this tradition, Vajra, we don't have you chase that mind and thought, because you will continue to create more and more storyline. And if you're continuing to create more and more storyline, it's very difficult to get it to still, to be able to enter this Turiyatita state, okay, or the Sahaj, a Nirvikalpa, where everything disintegrates when one goes into a Nirvikalpa. Now they talk about, I'll just go ahead and take a break here and talk about that Nirvikalpa, that one can go into a Nirvikalpa, be beyond the world, okay, but when they come out of it, the mind re-engages, okay, so they have a glimpse, they can speak of it, but there's no moksha, no liberation. because the mind has re-engaged. Okay, this is why we give the practices here, so that instead of that happening, when one goes into a nirvikalpa, when they come out of it, the eyes open, one is still in the nirvikalpa sahaj, an effortless state where the mind is not rerouting into persona. Okay. And then as everything is cut, all the things are cut, one is entered into that Turiyatita, and one remains in Turiyatita. Okay, so let's continue forward. The same nature as that of the supreme absorption of mind and the state of purnatva are experienced at the beginning and the end of sneezing, in terror, sorrow, or confusion, when fleeing from a battlefield, during keen curiosity, or at the outset of appeasement or hunger. That state is the eternal existence of a Brahman. So you can once in a while get shocked into something, and get a quick glimpse. When the mind stills, it's enough of a shock to make the mind still for a second. You can get a glimpse at that point. These are also ways sometimes that will awaken Kundalini. If one has had a great shock to the system, sometimes this will awaken Kundalini. If you see the video where you have this Tibetan yogi that's doing this practice where he's kind of jumping up and boom, and he's again throwing himself down, he's trying to, hit that bottom hard enough to shock the Kundalini awake. Okay, so that's what that practice he's doing. Okay, either that, or if you're connected with somebody like myself that's a Kundalini completed master, you will, through the vibration, through the connection, the Kundalini can spontaneously awaken through the practices. Okay, it's another way. Also, it can awaken if one is really praying, wanting to know God in all sincerity. Sometimes this will awaken Kundalini by grace. Okay, let's continue to go forward. O Goddess, momentarily casting the gaze on some object and slowly withdrawing it, with the knowledge and impression of that object, one becomes the abode of the void. Okay, if you see it and then all of a sudden it's no longer there. Again, one can quickly glimpse on occasion what is that void. But again, we don't want to be in that void, which is devoid. Okay, that's not the void that we want to go to. Okay, there is one place that one can go through that's dark, it's void, it's devoid. Okay, that's not where we want to stop. Okay, don't think that's what's being spoken of when we talk about 0 point or that realization. That's definitely not it. Okay, that intuition which emerges from the intense devotion of one who is perfectly detached is known as the Shakti of Shankara. By contemplating regularly on that Shakti, Shiva is revealed there. Okay. Again, in the path, one has to develop this vairagya, okay, this non-attachment. One has to see when Kundalini is arising and things, one has to stay in vairagya and not get caught up in all of the drama that's going on. Because a lot of things, again, when Kundalini awakens, you're going to see auras, you're going to see lights. People see lights inside the first time, they think they're enlightened. When you see a light, it doesn't mean you're enlightened, okay? But a lot of different things will happen. Lucid dreaming will happen. Powers will arise. Feeling what's going on in somebody else's body. Being able to touch somebody and heal them. Praying for something. Manifesting things. These things can take place, okay? But again, they are not. These are not things that I have any students here try to chase and try to cling to because then one is only deceiving themselves. And again, Shakti can either take one to realization or totally deceive you and take you the other direction. Okay, totally blind you. So if you're off chasing all of these dramas, oh, she can take you on a real jaunt, okay? But you have to be like Shiva, okay? That point of Shiva sitting there, and it doesn't matter how much Shakti is dancing around and trying to get his attention, his focus is where? Internal, okay? This is why she had to create Ganesh, because his focus is internal. Had no time for screwing around and doing all this stuff. It wasn't happening. His focus is internal, in that quiet, that stillness. Okay. Let's continue forward. When one perceives, oh, we read that regarding other mind. Okay. When one perceives a particular object, vacuity is established regarding all other objects. Contemplating on that vacuity, verily, even though the particular object is still known or perceived, the mind rests in tranquility. Again, developing this vairagya, seeing without seeing, not attaching to, not trying to cling to, not pushing away. Let it just be as it is. Okay. What people of little understanding believe to be purity is neither pure nor impure to one who has experienced Shiva. Nirvikalpa, or freedom from vikalpas, is the real purification by which one attains happiness. Again, nirvikalpa is when the world recedes. One is not seeing with the five senses at that time. What's being accessed, what's being experienced is beyond the five senses in nirvikalpa. Okay. There is no world being seen. The external world has receded. It ceased to exist for a time when one is in nirvikalpa. One is only aware of that singular is. Okay. The reality of Bhairav dwells everywhere, even in ordinary people. By contemplating thus, there is nothing other than him, one attains the non-dual state of homogeneous awareness. Again, when realization actually takes place, it really takes the winds out of your sails, because you're not a god, you're not a goddess, you're not, you are this ever-present is. And every man, woman, child, animal, whatever plant is also this undivided is. Okay? Everything contains the same essence. Okay? That's it. So you're no longer special. If you were special, thought you were special before realization, you find out everything in the universe is the same has the same amount of it. Okay? None higher, none lower. That's it. It's why you can't, when the mind stills, you can't get angry, have hate towards people. It's not possible. It doesn't come up. It doesn't rise. Okay? One enters that equanimity. Okay, one should never think in terms of friendship or enmity. They don't exist. Okay? Being free from this idea of friend and foe, in between the Brahma Bhava, or nature of supreme consciousness, blooms. Again, one is not drawn to attachment to people nor to push them away. Okay. By contemplating on Bhairav as all that is, which is void and cannot be known, grasped, or imagined, at the end of realization takes place. Okay, well, you can't contemplate on something, really, that's trying to imagine what it would be. Okay, trying to imagine what it is. You can't imagine what your mind cannot conceive of. Okay, and this Bhairav or Parabrahman is beyond what the mind can conceive of. So that's a little difficult to contemplate something that mind cannot fixate on as an object. Okay, let's continue. Fixing the mind in the outer space, which is eternal, without support, void, omnipresent, and beyond estimation or calculation, one enters into formless, unmanifest dimensions. Well, I don't say you can fix your mind in outer space. It happens by grace. One gets pulled in. One reaches a point where there's not enough to keep you externalized outward. One is pulled in by grace, and then at that point one is pulled into this nirvikalpa, where the world no longer exists, and one is simply within that reality of that is the 0 point balance, Parabrahman, Bhairav, whichever you want to call. Okay, that's still point, that life of all life. Okay, that light beyond the lights. Okay, let's continue forward. Wherever the mind dwells, casting that aside, that very moment the mind becomes supportless and free from disturbance. The word Bhairav denotes he who dispels all fear and terror, who howls and cries, who gives all, and who pervades the entire universe, manifest and unmanifest. He who constantly repeats the word Bhairav becomes one with Shiva. Okay, so if you become one with Shiva, you're going to, again, internalize. You do your mantra, main heart center, you internalize, okay, until these things begin to appear. Again, you can't be internalized and then externalized, chasing these realms and these different things at the same time. You can't go two different directions in one time. Okay, that's why, again, on this path, one is kept to internalization, letting these to fall away, until that which is unchanging, unmoving, is entered. And that's not going anywhere, okay, because that's permanent. That is. Okay, let's continue forward. At the time of asserting I am, this is mine, and so on, by inspired meditation on that highest reality, the mind becomes supportless. Meditating every moment on the words eternal, omnipresent, supportless, all-pervasive, master of the universe, one attains fulfillment in according to their meaning. Again, I think this is trying to convince yourself of something. Not something I have my students do. Okay, you can't convince yourself of it. Some people can for a while. Okay, they can convince themselves of it. And I see this happening with many modern gurus. They want to have people convince themselves of it for a time, but it's not true liberation. It's not moksha. It may be very blissful for a time. One can tell themselves a larger story, but in the end, they're going to find that they are going to be challenged with a bunch of other thought processes, other things going on. Okay, this world is illusory, like magic, devoid of any essence. What essence exists in magic? Being firmly convinced of this, one attains peace. Okay, it's what we say Maya occludes, where you do not see this grand is. If you're focused on all the externalized things, then one misses that which is internal within the center of all. Okay, let's continue forward. How can there be knowledge or activity of the changeless Atman or self? All external objects are under the control of knowledge. Therefore, this world is void. Yes, everything that's created in this world is created by the Word. The Word was with God and the Word was God. That's why you can never explain it in words, because words are duality. Okay, it's beyond duality. Okay, let's continue going forward. There is neither bondage nor liberation for me. These scare cowards and are the reflections and projections of the intellect, just as the sun is reflected in water. Okay, there is no me in liberation. Therefore, there's no bondage or liberation. It never was. It's like the grand joke of the universe. When one gets there, one has that cognition. I've never been born. I've never died. I am this. I am that. I am the supreme is. This is all that exists. That persona was a dream state. It was illusion, a maya, a covering of drama, of storylines that one grasped onto and fought against, and taking the form to be that reality, taking that form. Okay, the form comes and goes. Okay, what one is that consciousness which enlivens the form. Okay, which programs the form. The form allows that consciousness to have experience in this realm, but one is not this form. Okay, let's continue forward. Knowledge reveals all, and the self of all is the revealer, or the knower. One should contemplate on the knowledge and the knower as being one and the same. O dear one, when the mind, awareness, energy, and individual self, this set of four dissolves, then the state of Bhairav manifests. Mind, awareness, energy, individual self. Okay? When these four dissolve, okay, you getting it? Dissolve, okay? Nibbana, blown out, at an end, then that state of Bhairav manifests, or that Parabrahman is known. Okay. O Goddess, I have briefly told you more than 112 ways whereby the mind is rendered still. Rendered what? Still. Okay. Doesn't mean still for a second. It means still. Turiyatata. Turiyatita. That's still. That's Turiyatita. Okay. Witness state. It stills for a time. One gets glimpses. Turiya. Turiyatita, the mind is still. Okay. It's at an end. It's done. It's quiet. That's it. Okay. And then all is revealed. At that point, the Kundalini is completed. One has gone that bridge, that journey, that vehicle. Again, it stills. It stills into 0 point balance, becomes very grounded. Okay. Okay, let's continue forward. Without any surge of thought, knowing which people become wise. Again, no surge of thought. The mind is not rerouting. It must stay in Turiyatita for this Bhairav self-realization to be maintained as moksha, as liberating. Okay. One attains the state of Bhairav if established even in one of these 112 dharanas, and by his speech he confers blessings or curses. Okay. But when one reaches that state, they do not wish to curse anyone, I can guarantee you that. That only happens to limited minds with something to preserve, protect, and fight against. Okay, when one becomes that Parabrahman, that Bhairav, okay, that is And all you know is a manifestation of that is somewhere, no matter how diluted they are. For what would you want to curse? Okay? There's nothing to curse at that point. Okay? And the only prayer one gives is, may the best be done. May the best be done. Okay? Because the universe has its way of working itself out. Okay? So let's continue forward. O goddess, by virtue of even one of these dharanas, the sadhaka becomes free from old age, attains immortality, and is endowed with cities such as anima. Okay, anima, again, that's becoming that small or that large. That happens in the midst of the journey. Can happen quite early in the journey. Okay. He becomes the darling of all yoginis and the master of all siddhas because one is not engaging in the cities. Okay? You master them by not getting caught up in them. Yes, they appear. Yes, they have their time. Okay? But a master, a siddha master, is one that's gone beyond all the cities, not one that's trying to develop them. Okay? This idea of becoming immortal, it doesn't mean the body's going to be immortal. The body comes and goes. The body is according to this planet. It's under the same restrictions and limitations that are on this planet. What's eternal is that consciousness. One becomes that eternal. I've never been born. I've never died. Okay, I am that is. This is the cognition. This is the reality that remains. Let's continue forward. The goddess said, O great Lord, if this is the nature of the supreme reality, he is liberated while living and not affected by the activities of the world while active. Exactly. One is forever in the moment as it is. There is no projection. There is no push away. Okay? That one is liberated. Okay? It doesn't mean everything in the world is going to go magically right for that person. The body's here, the body goes through what it needs to do. The karma plays out. Okay? But one is in a steadiness, equanimity, equilibrium. It plays out. It doesn't stick. Okay? One is not drugged here nor there by it. Everything comes from the stillness, goes out, does its Shakti, comes back and goes back into that stillness. Okay? Liberated. Liberated. Devi continues, to whom should the invocations be made? To whom should oblations be offered during this sacrifice? And how should these be done? Sri Bhairav said, O gazelle-eyed one, these acts are verily the gross forms of worship. Okay. One doesn't need to do that. There are some that still are doing the pujas, but there is no need. There's the one writing that I put in that said that we are the offering of the puja. Okay. When one reaches that point, they see there's no need to propitiate here and propitiate there, the gods and goddesses. Please give me propitiating, propitiating, propitiating. Okay. You are the sacrifice. Okay. There is the light. There is the fragrance of it. And you are the offering. Okay. So, again, one doesn't have to engage in these gross form of puja. Let's continue forward. Contemplate on the thought of being in the supreme consciousness again and again. This is also japa. That self-sound, which is spontaneously produced, is verily the soul of mantra. Japa is done like this, okay? When the intellect becomes steady, formless, and without any support, meditation is verified. Imagination of the form of the divine with a body, eyes, mouth, hands, etc. is not meditation. Okay? Imagination of a divine form is not meditation. Okay? Again, you're calling forth the visionary. If you're checking a form and trying to create form in your mental thing and you're seeing gods, goddesses playing with all of that, that's the visionary. You're not going to enter that Bhairav, that state of stillness. Yes, all of these things can appear. When Kundalini awakens, you can have that siddhi, that power, that Shakti, whichever you want to call it, of seeing gods and goddesses, dancing with them, playing with them, speaking, interacting with them. Okay? But they're always changing. They are not that eternal is. Okay? Offering of flowers, etc., is not puja or worship, but making one's mind steady, making the mind steady in Mahakasha, the great void, and thoughtless in Nirvikalpa is worship indeed. From such reverence, dissolution of mind takes place. And that's why on this path, Vajra Nirvana Mark, we are not doing pujas. Okay? If you want to understand puja, understand it at the higher level from that writing that I wrote. You know, that these are the things one is getting. The wisdom, the light beyond lights. Go to the light beyond lights, the fragrance of truth. Become that offering. Okay? No need to sit and do oblations and pujas. And we all know who I'm going to speak about that still does it. He is saying that basically he's Sadashiv. He's that stillness. He's that Turiyatara. Then why is he doing pujas in that gross form? Why is it being done? If he is this Sadashiv in that stillness, this Bhairav, he would know. It's not needed. Not only is it not needed, it's not beneficial to get people to realization, to ultimate moksha. That's putting more bondage on them. Okay. I'm not the one that wrote this text. Okay. This is Kashmiri Shaivite. What he's supposed to be teaching. Okay. What he is supposed to expounding himself as author of. Okay. Then he should understand these simple things. Clearly, there's not that understanding because that's still ongoing. And this is why I speak as I speak. Because if he were in this state that he says he's in, he would not be leading people down that road. There are so many things that he does which are fully against stilling the mind. Okay. A lot of imagination, okay. A lot of that things, a lot of ramping up of energy. Okay. But so much of what is being done is not in accordance with Kashmiri Shaivism. Just not. I'm closer to that than he is, and I'm not teaching a Kashmiri Shaivism path. Okay. So let's continue forward. Being established in any of one of the practices here, whatever experience is produced develops clay by day, develops by day until this state of absolute fullness or satisfaction is attained. The real oblation is made when the elements and sense perceptions along with the mind are poured as an oblation into the fire of the great void. Again, what did I just say? You are the offering. You are the offering. Okay, let me read this one more time. Okay, again, I didn't write this text. This is straight Kashmiri Shaivism. The real oblation is made when the elements and sense perceptions, along with the mind, are poured as oblation into the fire of the great void, i.e. Bhairav or supreme consciousness, using the consciousness as a ladle, until on the altar of truth I lay myself. On the altar of truth. And at that point, one surrenders totally. And there is no world. There's only that nirvikalpa. That death before death, which ends the illusion of death. And one is born into that awareness, that liberation, that moksha, that turiya tita. Okay. Are we getting this? Thank you to the universe for bringing this this teaching here. The greatest contemplation is that state where one is absorbed into the Shakti of Rudra. Otherwise, how can there be any worship of that element, and who is it to be gratified? One's own self is verily the all-pervasive bliss of freedom and the essence of consciousness, Sat Chit Anand. One is only Sat Chit Anand. When this divisionary drama of ego self is deconstructed. Okay. When the great joke has been entered, and then all that remains is the play of God. At that point, one enters the play of God, not in the middle of the path, although it can be very blissful in parts. But the play of God actually begins when one has entered Turiya Teta, moksha, liberation, then one has entered the play of God. Okay. Absorption into that nature or form of one's own self is said to be the real bath or purification. Again, the dross needs to be burned away. The dross is that illusionary mind. Okay, the dross is that illusion of Maya, that covering which is now dispelled. Okay, that goes. And what remains is that pure awareness. Okay, let's continue forward. The oblations and the worshipper, by which verily the transcendental reality is worshipped, are all one and the same. What then is this worship? Okay. Prana and apana having moved swiftly in a distinct direction by the wish of Kundalini, that great goddess stretches, elongates herself, and becomes the supreme place of pilgrimage, both manifest and unmanifest. Understand Kundalini. Read the Chandipad. Read the Chandipad. Okay. Understand what Ma Kali. She's very fearful looking, but these are the things that one confronts. Okay. The greatest demon she fought in the end was what? Ego. Okay. She fought all of these mistaken notions that one clings to, these things that come up, these small demonic things. But the main one The main one, why Devi had to absolutely concentrate into Kali, and Kali had to cut the head of ego. And when she cut the head of ego, what did she do? She drank the blood. Why did she drink the blood? Because the blood, each one that would drop, would manifest thoughts. So in her compassion, she would take these thoughts. And that's what it means. You have to nip them in the bud before they root. Before they root and grow more drama. Okay. If you understand and you read the Chandipat, you will understand the nature of Kundalini and what the path is to do, what it's there to aid, how one is to progress in the journey. Okay. Okay, let's continue forward. One who pursues and abides in this sacrifice, which is full of supreme bliss, attains by the grace of that goddess the supreme state of Bhairav. By the grace of Kundalini, one is pulled in by grace. Yes, one has to do the practices. Yes, one has to be vigilant, but it's not by your own hand that you can get there. It's by grace when one is pulled in. By grace it takes place. The breath is exhaled with the sound of ha. And again, this has happened with many of the students. When the Kundalini is open, they will actually hear an audible, somebody by the ear, expressing ha. Okay, helps to move them forward. And inhaled again with the sound of sa. Thus, the individual always repeats this particular mantra, Hamsa. Okay? Hamsa, Hamsa, Hamsa. This is breath, this breath. The liberated, liberated, Hamsa, the swan, liberated. Okay. So this verse is only found in some versions. This japa of the Devi was previously indicated being repeated 21,600 times during the day and night, and is easily available and difficult only for the ignorant. Okay. O Goddess, this most excellent teaching, which is said to lead to the immortal state, should verily not be revealed to anybody. These teachings should not be disclosed to other disciples, to those who are evil and cruel, or to those who have not surrendered to the feet of the Guru. They should only be revealed to advanced souls who are self-controlled and whose minds are stilled of vikalpas. Okay. Not everyone is ready for this. Again, if you are someone that's into projecting, wanting powers, wanting these things, Shakti can deceive greatly. Okay, she can either liberate or she can occlude. Okay, so only the ones that are ready for this are those that are ready to be internalized, that are ready to give up, let go of things. Okay. The ones that are willing to face that death before death. Okay. Those are the people that are ready for this type of a path. Okay. Okay, those devotees of the Guru who are without the slightest doubt or hesitation, O gazelle-eyed one, having renounced, not clinging to, having renounced son, wife, relatives, home, village, kingdom, country, should be accepted for invitation and initiation. Okay? Because on this path, the further one goes, the more these things will fall away. Okay? And if you're not ready to let go of them, then you're trying to have one foot in one place and one foot in the other place. And you can go nowhere. You're going to sit there and spin. So if you want to sit and spin, you can try to do it without being willing to let go of things, but you'll go nowhere. You can't go two directions at one place. You have to be willing to surrender, surrender, surrender. Okay. Today I have understood the quintessence of Rudra Mala Tantra and also the heart, the innermost core of all the different Shaktis. What is it? The innermost core of all the different Shaktis. Not moving coconuts with the mind. These are not Shaktis. These are low-level magician's tricks. These are dramas. These are not genuine spiritual Shaktis. Again, this is why I speak out. Okay. Thus saying, the goddess being steeped in delight embraced Shiva. Okay. And so ends the Vijana Bhairav Tantra. I'm sure I have made some people very angry, but I can only give commentary on what the text is. Okay. Again, I didn't write the text. This is from the Kashmiri Shaivite tradition and lineage. Some of it would go quite well with this path. Some of it I pass on. I don't see it as effective and can actually take one in a wrong direction, can take one to stumbling blocks along the way. We don't want stumbling blocks. We want to see people progress to realization that really are ready for that path and ready to do the mystics, the inner mystics path. Okay. So I'm going to leave this here. Namaste. Have a great 2018. Bye, everyone.